Welcome. Hey, how's it going? Good morning, afternoon, evening. Happy Veterans Day. Thank you for your service to all the veterans out there that are viewing this video. Today we're going to take a look at a couple U.S. Army, a yearbook and a graduation album, I guess I would call it, because jump school is a short school. Let's start chronologically. Let's start with this one right here. This is my jump school album. So, very nice, isn't it? Isn't this nice? That's a really nice silver set of jump wings. So, I believe this was, I think maybe 10. I almost said 20, but I don't think it was that expensive. This would have been 1985. Yep, there's my graduation date. So, this is a situation where I'm pretty sure at the very beginning it would have been in ground week because they start taking these pictures like the first day. So at the very beginning of training, you get pictures taken, and if I remember right, it was a mobile home. Isn't that cool with the embossed beret with the "Follow Me" flash on it? See it right there? Well, you probably can't read it. It says "Follow Me" above that sword. There we go. United States Army Airborne School, Fort Benning, Georgia. So yeah, you opt into this at the very beginning in day one, and you pay your $10, and then at the very end they give you this book. So on the inside, this is a great one, man. Get this very famous classic Ben Franklin inventing parachuting quote. Kind of the father of paratroopers, right? Ben Franklin came up with the idea. See, look. This is a mural, a photograph of a mural that was there, if I remember right. This is another famous quote about the devils in baggy pants. This is where parachutists get that nickname, and it came from a German infantry officer. And then here is the list of where they fought. Airborne roster of glory. So this is going to be all airborne military or battle involvement through history from the very beginning. 11th Airborne Division. I think this is World War I, all this. No, it says January 45. To Grenada. So World War II to Grenada. But it's because in World War I, they weren't airborne. I mean, the 82nd existed, I believe, but they didn't have the airborne tab. They weren't jumping out of airplanes. So this is your first day. The Army. Hurry up and wait. I liked some of the stuff in here in the school, so I went to jump school. That's funny, right? Because it's a joke within a joke, honestly, because the jump pay in 1985 was $110 extra per month. That's pretty funny, right? So, and it comes out you only have to jump. You're obligated to jump once every 3 months. And so what it really comes down to is $330 every time you jump out of an airplane. And that's all the hazardous duty or extra pay that you were getting at that time for being a paratrooper. Only $110 extra per month. This is the Ungawa 250-foot tower. Here's the entrance to the school. So there's a lot of individual things that take place here that don't take place anywhere else in the entire military. First of all, everybody in the military has to come here to U.S. Army Airborne School to learn how to jump out of airplanes. Marines come here, Navy SEALs come here, Air Force Recon Rescue or whatever they're called. Everybody has to come here to learn how to jump out of an airplane. Now it's mostly Army, but every class you're going to get a mix of different people, right? It's always going to be a mix of different people. Sometimes it'll be very unusual. This guy right here is the boot black. There was more than one. This picture just shows this one guy, but I remember there being a row of maybe 3 or 4 of them right across from the main company. So here's what this situation was. At this school, there is a tremendous amount of physical pressure put upon you. Also psychological pressure, but the physicality of this school is brutal. And one of the main things about this school is they'll constantly do, it's not the main thing, what am I saying? I don't know, I'm just babbling. Anyway, one of the things that they do is they do like 3 inspections a day maybe, especially that morning inspection. And they're looking at everything. These guys are called black hats, and they're kind of like, they're drill sergeants from hell. They're way more different, way more unreasonable than even drill sergeants are, in my opinion. They're more cruel. They're more, they're deranged. They're unkind. Here's one of them right here, and they're called black hats because they just wear black baseball caps and white T-shirts. They're airborne trainers. They're airborne instructors. Oops, sorry about that. They're quite cruel. So every day, throughout the day, you're inspected. Your uniform, your equipment, and your boots are inspected, right? So they're always going to look to see, and if they wanted to, they could always find something wrong with your boots not being shiny enough or being dinged, or really they could make anything up that they want. And once they've singled you out, they're going to now torture you physically and psychologically. They're going to send you to this place called the gig pit, where instead of just doing normal PT, which is horrible, PT is physical training, which is as horrible enough as it is, you have to do it in the mud and the sawdust with them like shooting a hose on you. So there is only one guaranteed way to avoid this treatment right here. There is only one way that is completely guaranteed, and it's not to shine your boots every single day all night and make sure that they're perfect and to do all that stuff. It really isn't. That's not the way it is. The one way that you can survive and not get beat up for your boots is to pay the boot black. And you're like, what? Pay the boot black? Myra, what are you talking about? What I'm talking about is I think it was cheap, man. It was like $1 a day or $2 a day. I don't know. It was really inexpensive. So it was like maybe $30 or $60 for the whole month. And here's what you had to do. You had to have, obviously everybody has 2 pairs of boots. So you have to go and you pay this guy your money. He gives you a ticket and he writes a number on the inside of all your boots. And then you give him a pair of boots. And then the next day you come and you pick up the boots that you left and you drop off the ones that you wore that day. And he doesn't shine your boots. Instead, he paints them with this this shiny, like, lacquer type stuff that once this is all over and done with, it's going to ruin these boots. Like, these boots are long gone. The boots that I used in jump school are long, long gone. So they fell apart, right? Because they got painted with this stuff, this like plastic, like, I don't know what it was, man, just to make them shiny all the time. So, but what part of the whole thing is, not only are you paying the $30 or $60 a month to not get sent to the gig pit, you're willing to sacrifice 2 pairs of boots. You don't care whether these boots survive or anything for the rest of your military career. At this point, you can just buy a new pair of boots. It is those black hats that I was showing you, they are so cruel and so mean that it is completely worth it to pay the money and to lose the boots and for them to be destroyed at the end, because you want to avoid being acknowledged. You don't want anyone there to know your name. You don't, you don't want them to recognize your face. And the number that they stick on your helmet, that is what everyone is called by a number pretty much. You don't want them to remember your number. So you want to avoid all contact with these people and just make it out of here successfully. Make your 5 jumps, because in the last week you have to make 5 parachute jumps. I think 3 of them are at night. And then you get your this is what's happening here. You get your wings pinned on, and you succeed, and you get to go to wherever you're going to. Like, some guys are going to Ranger School, some guys are going to The 82nd Airborne Division, that's where most guys are going. Some people are going back to where they came from with a better job waiting for them. Because these wings, this thing right here, making it through what I was just describing, paying the money to the boot black, which what I was getting at is the boot black is a racket. The whole thing is a racket. What happens is once the black hats look at your boots and they can see that they're not normally shined boots, they're the boot black boots, they give you a pass. They just don't look at you anymore because it's a racket. The black hats, perhaps suspectedly, are getting a cut from the boot blacks. Do you get what I'm saying? Do you see it? Do you see what I'm saying? It's all a racket. A lot of chin-ups going on here, a lot of push-ups. These are Ranger push-ups where you put your feet up high on the Ranger tab tree and you do push-ups. This is morning PT, which is brutal here. You run everywhere and you don't wear PT clothes. As you can see, these guys are running in full fatigues. They don't look like they're carrying their boots right here. So one of the worst things is they make you run in full fatigues. They'll let you put tennis shoes on, but you have to carry your boots in your hand. And when you run for 3, 4, 5 miles, carrying a pair of boots in one hand, because you have to like hold them together like this. You can't have one boot in one hand and carry them any way you want. You got to hold them on your side exactly like that while you're running. It sucks. So a lot of this training really sucks. But I'll tell you one thing about this. The stuff that they teach you at this school, you will never forget for the entire rest of your life. You remember everything because of the style that they teach you, which is a style of repetition and fear. so all the most important stuff that's happening here as I'm leafing through this book that I haven't looked at really very much in a long time, although I did look at it and take some pictures recently, but I haven't, and put them on Instagram. I didn't really look, they call it the worm pit here, but we call it the gig pit. Worm pit heroes. Oh, there it is, gig pit right there. So yeah. What was I saying? See, look, so you want to come to training with dirty uniforms. Nobody was coming to training with dirty uniforms. What people are getting gigged for is for not paying the protection money and for having a button unbuttoned or not shaving completely and missing a spot. It's little things like that. Everybody here is scared. Everybody here is really frightened of those two guys you're looking at right there in the white t-shirts with the black hats. Now this is brutal. This training takes place in Georgia, in Fort Benning, Georgia. And see where it says, thank God for the showers? So it'll be like, it'll be really hot, man. Like Amazon hot here in this place. And you're running around doing all this horrible training. They have these purposefully made outdoor showers. That looks like a jungle gym made of galvanized piping, but it isn't. It's a type of outdoor shower with water dripping down. But they don't let you hang out under there or anything. You're allowed to run or roll or fly through as quick as you can all together, but you're not lounging or taking a shower. You're just getting your entire body drenched with water from head to toe to reduce the chance of heat stroke. All right, here we go. Tower Week, suspended agony. Look there, yeah. So they call this suspended agony. This is the nutcracker. That's what you see happening here, because you're hanging and there's so much technicality here. You're just hanging from these straps and you're learning how to steer your parachute with these straps and then learn all the different connectors and everything and how everything works. Because it's not overly technical, but once you learn the equipment, but the equipment is quite important, as you may imagine. This is the Ungawa 250-foot tower, where they raise you up and drop you down. And it's, I guess mostly it's practicing maneuvering and landing for the most part. This is our commander, and he wrote some great books. Like he wrote this really good book that still exists. It's still around, called Charlie Mike. And this guy's a Vietnam vet and a total badass. So he ran PT with us in the morning, which is like something that a lot of places, like, you don't see this type of involvement, right? These guys are monsters. These guys are like madmen. Here's our black hats. They're awful. I could point out to you and tell you which ones were particularly cruel, but they were all terrible. Here they are. They're all very, very good at their jobs. The whole point of their jobs is to train you so intensely that you won't screw up and cost anyone their lives. And that's the whole point of it all, right? Is to make it to do this whatever we're doing successfully and nobody getting hurt. So that's why they're so cruel and so tough. So one of the things that's also that's not funny, but an actual situation here with this book. Remember how I told you these pictures were all taken at the very beginning, and some of these people that are in this book did not graduate. Matter of fact, a lot of them. This school has about I don't know, maybe a 15 or a 20% rate of washout. I don't know. I think it's 10 or 20%. So yeah, I mean, out of every 10 people, one of these people didn't make it. I could leaf through, and there we go. That's me right there in the exact center, looking at you all, serious like. This is me. It's a cool dude. See, I mean, a lot of these people, this girl didn't make it. So I mean, a lot of these people. This guy's a cool dude. He made it. Coleman, I think. A lot of these people didn't make it. A lot of the people, most of these people did make it. Anyway, some of them didn't. Some of them, like, where's those ones? They must be at the very beginning because it's Al, A-L. They're right here. So in my class, we had these two dudes right here. This guy and this guy. These guys are foreign nationals. These guys are Middle Eastern foreign nationals from another country in the Middle East, a country that we're not really great. We don't have the best relations with. And at this time in 1985, I mean, maybe our relations were a little bit better, but nowadays they really aren't. And so that's one of the weird things I was telling you about this school, is that tons of people go here. It's not just like Joe Blow, from Flint, Michigan, who wants to learn how to jump out of airplanes for $110 extra a month. It's tons of people that are doing things. They're coming from different places. They're fulfilling certain obligations. And sometimes they're officers from other countries. And usually those officers from other countries are usually connected somehow, because this is a big deal. I mean, this cost a lot of money. They're not going to just send anybody, from Saudi Arabia to the United States to go to an Army parachuting school. So usually they're connected. Usually the foreign officers or foreign people, they might be the relative of someone, the son of a higher ranking individual. Look at all these bright, shiny faces of these young paratroopers ready to jump out of airplanes in the middle of the night. Here, these are like the candid shots where it's just like they just took all these pictures of us individually, or not individual, of us like during training, and they're really not that great. I mean, this is my stick right down here, and I think that this, I'm like right. So if this is Sergeant Fink right here, that means that I'm like right here. So the guy that took the picture just missed me. I would have been next. That's shitty. I mean, I remember my number was 750. 750. This is the first barracks that I ever went to. This is the tallest guy and the shortest guy in our class. I just remember that little guy, and he was short, like, I mean, not even 5 feet tall, like maybe 4'10". Maybe he barely made the height. And that other guy, he's like 6'7". But that little guy, he was Armenian. I just remember that because I'm from California and there's Armenians here, and so I recognized his name. But he was tiny, like 4'10". They might even have fudged it a little bit to let this guy in. But he was a badass. He completely made it. And And this tall dude is not, he's like a captain or something. He's an officer. But this guy's like a PFC. And also, as like I was saying, all different walks of life here. People, there might be cooks here. It might be a cook, and it might be a machine gunner, and it might be a combat medic like myself, a medical specialist. I was a combat medical specialist. So I'm a combat medic, and I'm learning to jump out of airplanes with all types of other people, and we're all going to be doing it together eventually when we get to wherever we're going. Except for some of us are weirdos, like those officers I told you about. Looks like fun, doesn't it? Just look awesome. So this is the last week, jump week, where you have to jump out of the airplane a bunch of times. Notice how I said have to instead of get to. At the beginning, this is not fear-oriented. You're not afraid of doing any of the stuff that we've been looking at. You're afraid of being physically harassed, assaulted, and failing. So failure can never be an option here. So it's not even a thought or a choice in your head. I don't know what everyone is thinking. So I'm just going to talk about my experience, what I went through. For me, there was never a question of whether I was going to be able to do this or make it through this. I know what I forgot where I was going a second ago. I'll go off on tangents all the time, you guys. It's bear with me. There were beer machines in the barracks here, so you could buy beers in the gaming room, in the rec room inside the barracks with no, there's no sergeants, there's no and that's the other thing. There's nobody supervising you here. It's like almost like college. You're your own boss in a way. No one's going to follow after you and make sure you do your shit. You're going to get destroyed on your own. If you don't pay the boot black, or if you're willing to do all this stuff, you'll get destroyed of your own right. So you can drink beer here in the barracks and just go buy beer, play pool, play pinball, watch TV, when you're not doing all this horrible training, which is something I hadn't seen before, where you could just buy, you don't even have to go to the store to get a beer. You just go and put 50 cents in. It's like a soda machine, but it has beer. So there's no fear involved at this point of doing this thing, because the training is so intense and it's so repetitive, memory oriented, as well as like some sort of there's mind control. So as well as like some form of mind control is being used here, and it's something. But they train you so good that it becomes second nature to do everything we're looking at. Always look before you turn. Look, turn right to avoid other jumpers. Lower jumper has the right of way. Are those the 3 rules of the air I just called out? They might have been. Anyway, there's all kinds of things. There's the 5 points of contact. There's all these different things that you memorize that it's beyond memorization. It becomes it's a mantra that is in your head. That will never, once you've done it, at last you get these wings pinned on, you'll never forget it because the experience is so intense. So then, after you've been doing it for a couple of years, like after you graduate this school, and if being a paratrooper, if parachuting is job essential for you, which it is for a lot of these, as I mentioned, most of these guys are probably going to the 82nd Airborne Division at this point. This is really nice right here. So once you've been doing that for a couple of years, doing a jump every 2 or 3 months, it becomes old hat, and you start sleeping. What I mean by sleeping is, you sleep at every possible given moment. So, as soon as you got the parachute on and as soon as you're loaded in the plane and sitting down, whereas you think most guys would be like scared and nervous about what's going to happen, you can tell a seasoned and experienced paratrooper will immediately go to sleep, or they might even read a paperback book Or in the old days, they would light up a cigarette right there inside of a cramped airplane with no lights on, with just that red lamp going. And guys are reading a paperback, reading like a science fiction book or something, or, with a flashlight. And there'll be guys just smoking cigarettes, and you can barely even move because you're all crammed inside this thing. Look at this. That's me right there. And my mom in the newspaper. Scuds, hardship, marked duty in the desert. That's enough of a look at that. I didn't know that was in there. I don't want to look at that. So you get used to this, and it doesn't become, it's not fear related until the end. And it's funny. This is our. There's all sorts of traditions here when it comes to being a paratrooper. And one of the old ones with the 82nd Airborne Division is this song called Blood on the Risers, and it's sung to the tune of Glory, Glory, Hallelujah. And it is a sarcastic, sadistic, tongue-in-cheek sort of Dr. Demento song. And it's played every single morning on the loudspeakers on what we call the street, where you run PT, you run miles and miles up and down the street every morning. Everyone does at like 6 o'clock in the morning. This song is played very loudly on the loudspeaker, and it's about an accident. It's about a guy dying during a jump. It's about the worst thing possibly happening to you, and then making fun of it and kind of making a joke out of the whole thing, which is also part of the whole experience. See, look. Instead of glory, glory, hallelujah, it's gory, gory, what a hell of a way to die. And at the end, he ain't gonna jump no more. So, if you know, we'll end on this. So if you know that you're gonna be, leaving the division, like maybe you're getting out of the Army, or maybe you've got orders to go to a new duty station. You're going to be leaving Fort Bragg, and you're going to leave the 82nd, and you're going to miss it, but you got one more jump to make. That last jump is going to be the scariest jump of all of them, and that's how it was with me. The only reason it was scary is because I was waiting for the other shoe, or whatever you want to call it, the karma. Not really karma. I was waiting for the other shoe to drop, waiting for the odds to even out, because I never had anything. Well, I landed in a couple trees in my career, so we're not going to go into telling personal stories or anything. But so a lot of guys have accidents, minor ones, and and landing in trees is pretty common at Fort Bragg because it gets really windy there sometimes, and they make you jump out in low elevation sometimes. And anyway, so you land in trees sometimes, but nothing bad ever happened to me. So when nothing bad ever happens, like really terrible, the last time you know that like, you're like, well, Friday's my last jump. And so suddenly on Friday night, you don't fall asleep. Like, you're not going to sleep in the plane, and you're not going to bring your book. Maybe you might be more nervous than ever before. And that's how I was. I remember. But I loved this, and I still miss this to this day. And the things that I loved about it and the things that I miss about it, they involved my friends. It all involves your friends. It all involves these other guys, these other paratroopers that you spend hour after hour, day after day with every day. And it is a deep brotherhood that lasts a lifetime, right? So, yeah, that's what you miss the most, is your friends. I always tell people that I miss the food, and they look at me like I'm crazy, or they're like, they have no remark. They don't answer me. Yeah, I miss the food, man. I miss the meals. I miss the giant breakfasts and the double dinners. And I miss hanging out at a big table with my buddies and bullshitting about what we did all day, or telling stories about our friends or our family back home. Lots of guys tell stories. Where am I? We should have me on here while I'm talking about this. So yeah, I missed the food because I liked the food. The food was good. Um, and I miss my friends most of all. All right, guys. Happy Veterans Day. I hope you enjoyed this video looking at my U.S. Army Airborne School album from 1985. Happy Veterans Day. Thank you for your service, and I will talk to you guys later.